So I thought I would describe today why there are so many Ritvik camps and how did these camps come about and what are the major differences between the Prabhupadanuga camps, Ritvik camps, whatever you want to call them. And let's start with the problem of soft Ritvik versus hard Ritvik. Now, I am being called a soft Ritvik because I believe that it is possible that another pure devotee could appear. And if he does appear, he may participate in ISKCON, he may not participate in ISKCON. That would be up to that pure devotee himself. I don't think it's up to me to say he could be or should be doing anything. Whatever he decides is fine. So I believe there could be another pure devotee, and that pure devotee could participate in ISKCON, although there's not much left of ISKCON at this point. Many ISKCON properties are now in the name of different charities, and they've had a lot of shuffling of assets and properties, and ISKCON is a very dwindled down situation anyway, so it's not going to be a whole lot here for a pure devotee to take over if he does come. But Prabhupada didn't specify that a pure devotee would come or would not come. It's an open-ended situation. And then we have the hard Ritviks, which is mainly Krishna Kant and the ISKCON Reform Movement, IRM. And they believe Prabhupada will be the Acharya in ISKCON for 10,000 years. There won't be another Acharya. If there is another Acharya, he won't be able to participate in ISKCON. He will have to start his own mission. But this is all speculation, in my opinion. I don't see any statement from Prabhupada where he said a pure devotee would come or would not come, or if he did come, he would or would not participate in ISKCON. I think this is speculation. So this has been a problem. We've had a breakdown of cooperation with ourselves and the ISKCON reform movement over this issue, the so-called hard and soft Ritvik issue. At the same time, in 1997, when we met with Krishna Kant of the ISKCON reform movement, he totally disagreed with my strategy of having the GBC sued over the BBT copyrights. He said I should not work with Hansaduda and sue the GBC and get the rights to Prabhupada's original books because he was going to make a deal with Jayapataka and some of the other leaders, and he was going to get the rights to the original books without a lawsuit, which I didn't believe was possible. I thought it's going to have to be done legally, and I believe I was right because I didn't see Krishna Kant ever come up with a plan to print original books or have any legal basis to do that. So our plan, we worked with Hansaduda and Bhagavan, and we got at least some kind of agreement to produce some limited amount of original books, but we put the original books issue on the map. That was the important thing. Now a lot of people are aware of it, and a lot of people are demanding original books because of our lawsuit. So we put a focus on that. So that was one thing. The other thing was that I was, at the time, having the GBC sued for child molesting. I believed that this was a big problem because the victims, the previous victims, were committing suicide more and more. I believed we had to stop the suicides simultaneously. There were hundreds of kids in the GBC schools, which I believed we had to liberate them from those schools. So we put this issue on the map. The parents would take their kids out of those schools, which is what happened. As soon as the lawsuit was filed, hundreds of kids were pulled out of GBC schools, and thereby they were saved from being victims of the GBC school system. Now, ironically, it turns out that there was a big problem going on with Bhakti Vidyapurna Swami, and a huge molesting issue going on in Mayapur at the very time we were filing this lawsuit. So we did a very stellar job of saving anybody from getting caught up in that situation. That was a horrendous situation going on in Mayapur at the time. So we saved hundreds of kids from being put into that situation, which Sulochan called a wood chipper, throwing children into a wood chipper. So we stopped children from going into the wood chipper, and Krishna Kant, the IRM, and his allies like Sanad and Mukunda and Prahlad and HKC Jaipur type guys, Bhaktidas, these kinds of, they were very, very offended by this lawsuit. And Narayan and people like that were saying, Pranjan is destroying the golden body of Prabhupada. So they believe, evidently, they believe that mass child molesting, children being beaten and raped and things like that is the golden body of Prabhupada. I just don't believe that. So I can't participate in their program. I don't agree with their program. I don't think that's how children should be treated. And I think we have to save children, and we did save children, because after the lawsuit was filed, the suicides went way down. So that, it just had to be done. Sorry. Now, the other issue was, at the same time, I was bringing forward the poison issue. The Prabhupada had made a complaint about being poisoned, and Kamsahanta and Krishna Kant, same thing. They said, oh, we can't be bringing this out. We're going to lose buildings. We're going to lose our buildings. Well, they're not my buildings. If any buildings are going to get lost, it's not going to be my building. It's going to be the GBC's buildings. I'm not the GBC. I don't care if the GBC has or does not have a building. What difference does that make? So I brought forward the complaint of Prabhupada. Not only them, but the Narayan Maharaj people were infuriated, and they said, oh, Pranjan is a demon, he's saying Prabhupada was poisoned, blah, blah, blah. So I had a split with them as well. So these are some of the issues that the so-called Ritvik camps can't agree upon. Should we address the book changes issue? I say yes, we must. Should we address the child molesting issue? Yes, we must. Should we address the poison issue? Yes, we must, but not everybody agrees. So they split off from us, and, it's been that way ever since. We haven't had any communication with Krishna Khan and the IRM type people ever since. They don't like everything I'm doing, but they had some real pie in the sky idea. I mean, Krishna Khan and Adridaran and Kamsahanta and these type of IRM guys were telling me that they were going to fix the whole thing. They were negotiating a deal with Jayapataka, and they were going to make Jayapataka into a Ritvik, and everything was going to be hunky-dory. They were going to get the rights to original books, and I was going to be sent to the Mediterranean or the Cayman Islands or somewhere to take a vacation. And the Caribbean, that's another place they wanted me to go. So I said, well, wait a minute, who's going to pay for that? Well, Jayapataka's going to pay for that. Oh, really? So I'm going to go on a vacation, stop all my writing, and that way they'll be able to make ISKCON into a Ritvik situation. And they were really angry that I didn't agree. Well, if I go to the Caribbean and take a vacation there, I'm not going to come back alive. I mean, hello. They just had no idea what they were dealing with. Very, very naive people. In 6 months we're going to have this all solved. We're going to get rid of Pranjan. He's not going to be writing anymore. No. That is all very unrealistic, just pie in the sky. And I was right. They never negotiated anything after that. So that was a kind of a breakdown that I had with that group. Now, Kailash Chandra was one of the original writers and complainers about the GBC. He was working with Jadharani. But although he didn't like the GBC, he doesn't like my idea, which is we need to continue the worship of the Acharya. He said there's no need to have any more initiated people doing the deity worship. who's going to do the deity worship? Somebody. Somebody who? Well, somebody, Prabhupada never said somebody is going to do the deity worship. He said you need trained Brahmana people to do the deity worship. So Kailash was another person. He was supposedly, part of the original reform group, but he broke away from us. But so did all of the ISKCON reformers as well. I mean, like Ravinder Swarup and Trivakram Swami and Prithu and Rochan and all these people, they were making a reform in 1986. So they supposedly were working on my behalf to change things up for the better in ISKCON, but instead what happened is many of them just became voted in as the next wave of gurus. So that we had to break away from those guys. We couldn't work with them. And Rochan is still saying that gurus are going to be voted in. We're just going to have a better system of managing and monitoring the gurus. And I don't believe that works. I don't think Rochan is a person who's authorized to dictate to the Acharya or Ravinder Swarup or any of these guys. So we had to break away. There was another faction there. Now, another part of the faction in 1997 was Sanat and Mukunda and Prahlad, HKC Jaipur, Narayan people, and Mukunda. And they eventually made a video with Bhaktidas, and Bhaktidas says Radhanath is Saint Radhanath. We should be working with Radhanath. So they wanted me to work with Radhanath. I have no idea what that was all about, but they sent me a video where Bhaktidas was explaining, that Pranjan is a bad guy, and he's very offensive to Saint Radhanath. So, Bhaktidas was going all around ISKCON saying Pranjan is an offender to these saintly people. So we had to break away from them as well because we are not interested in working with Radhanath. We believe Radhanath is one of the people who had some place in Sulochan's departure and my almost being departed. I mean, some goodness came from New Vrindavan to take me out. So I believe Radhanath had something to do with all this trouble. And Henry Doktorsky had wrote a book about New Vrindavan where he says that Radhanath was involved in, having us dissenters dealt with. So I have no idea why they want me to work with that, but I can't work with that. We need to dissent. We can't have homosexuals and pedophiles and child molesters running amok all over the place and no one protesting. It's our job to protest that. I believe that. And so I am protesting that type of thing. I can't align with those guys. And they made another video with Narayan, same thing. He said, Ranjan is destroying the golden body of Prabhupada because he doesn't like to see molesters sitting in big seats being worshipped by children. He doesn't like to see children being beaten and raped in Mayapur, which is the golden body of Prabhupada. No, I don't believe that in a million trillion years. That is not what Prabhupada wanted. That has nothing to do with Prabhupada. I would say that is a satanic situation. Then Mukunda started advertising all kinds of crazy, let's say conspiracy theory, nut job type people, and he was selling all these videos and DVDs of these kind of crackpot people. And he was with the, let's say, the neo-Nazi, I don't know what they are, the skinheads, the white supremacist type guys, and I call them the Hitler Anugas, the followers of Hitler. And he was doing a lot of advertising of how great Hitler was. But Prabhupada said that Hitler is in dog consciousness, bodily consciousness. He is an asura. He is, he's also somebody that we just should not discuss in public. We shouldn't be discussing any of this stuff because it's making devotees look foolish and fanatical. So I tried to put the clamp on that and say, wait a minute, we can't have this whole Hitler-Anuga thing, outcropping going on. Well, a bunch of people broke away from me on that. We had some devotees in Germany. They are running a website called the Prabhupadanugas EU. They also got very upset when I attacked this whole Hitler thing and the Zionist and bankers thing and all that kind of, so Lojhan said we can't get involved with this. Prabhupada says we can't get involved with this. I believe it makes us look silly, and I get all kinds of complaints from every camp. I mean, the Narayan Maharaj camp, the Sridhar camp, the Ritvik camp, the GBC camp, everybody says, what in the heck is going on with you guys promoting Hitler? So it's not helping anything. It's not helping the Ritvik cause or the Prabhupada cause. I believe that. So that was another kind of a breakdown we had. And then Prahlad went to the Hare Krishna community in Jaipur, got them all spun up thinking, yeah, why are we stopping children from being molested and committing suicide? That's offensive, Prabhu. We can't be doing that. Let them all die in a bloodbath. That's what Mukunda had on his website. Let all of these children die in a bloodbath. Sorry, can't agree with that. And if we just allow children to die, that will also become a major media storm. Eventually the newspapers will say there's a suicide cult going on here. We can't have that. But that's what they wanted. And they told me that. I said, hey, these kids are committing suicide. They said, so what? I said, it'll get into the newspapers. So what? Well, so what? No, you have to save other living entities from dying at the very least. You can't just let Prabhupada's children die. You can't do that. So, many children told me that. They just wanted us to die. What the heck is that? So, we can't have that. We can't have that impression. But even the people involved with the court got that impression. It seems like these people just want the victims to die. So, that's horrible. We can't do that. So, I just can't work with all these different groups and people who claim to be Ritviks and Prabhupadanugas or whatever it is. Now, they have some sympathy for promoting Prabhupada, and that's good, and that's fine. But we need to all agree on the major issues. And the major issues are, number one, we can't have the books being changed. If people don't agree with that, then, they're not really with us. We have to stop children from being abused and committing suicide. And if you don't agree with that, sorry, you're out. And I am saying Prabhupada was poisoned. If you don't like that, too bad. That's what he said. It's his complaint. And, Krishna said he defeated Pod on the poison issue. No, he hasn't defeated anything. He lost most of his people, defected, and came over to work with me on the poison issue. He lost a whole bunch of the IRM people. They just weren't interested in opposing me on this issue. They saw, yes, there's a lot of valid information. Apart from probably complaining, there are whispers, there's a hair sample, there's so many other evidences on this poison issue. I can't get into all the details herein, but it's very extensive. And it all started when I came out with the tape where Prabhupada complains of being poisoned. And they didn't like it. And they wanted to suppress it and challenge, that complaint from coming out. So anyway, these are some of the, kind of a rough outline of some of the different reasons that the Ritviks don't agree with one another. And apart from that, there's a lot of devotees who like me personally on many levels. They like what I'm doing on many levels. But then they say, you're too heavy, your language is bad, you got the right idea, but the wrong presentation. Okay, well, what is your presentation? Are you going to present something more substantial? That what I'm doing? Well, no, we're not going to write anything or make a website or okay, well then that's also no good. You have to do something. Yeah, I'm defective. I agree, but you know, a blind uncle is better than no uncle. So when you do something, let me know. So I'm trying to work with all these different people to hopefully achieve some type of cooperation in the end, and in some way or other. But unless we all agree on the main points, uh, then I don't see how these camps will ever come to an agreement. Now, Madhupanda he's also a Ritvik, a Prabhupadanuga, and people write to me complaining, well, Madhupanda is doing this and doing that, and he is wrong about so many things. Well, maybe, but what are you doing? Right? He's making temples, he's making devotees. He has a wonderful temple here in the Bay Area, which is very successful. It has cows, it has a school for the children, very nice deity worship, nice pucca program. Where's your pucca program? Well, we don't have one. Okay, never mind. And recently someone said, well, Madhu Pandit is allowing his people to get a salary, and the people who collect money are taking a percentage of their collection and keeping it in their private bank account. That's horrible. Well, I don't know if that's horrible. First of all, I don't know if that's really going on. I have no idea. But if that is going on, I don't see a problem with that. I think we need to make sure that devotees have their independent financial stability, separate from the institution. The institution may be there to take care of them in 20 years, but what if it isn't? So they need to have their own independent financial security of some type. I think that's a good idea. I would not object to that. If I find out some of those people are getting a salary at this point, I would say that's maybe not a bad idea, because all the people who depended on the institution, many of them living in places like Alachua, now have nothing. They have no support because they depended on an institution. Institutions come and go. We may still be here after the institution is gone. So I think we also need to restructure our idea of how the institution will carry on in the future. And that's one of the ways that I think would be a good idea, which is to have people participating in the program who have at least some type of independence economically. Also, that will give them the ability to speak out. If they see something wrong, they can say, wait, this is wrong, and they won't be dependent on getting a stipend from the institution. So that makes people remain silent. I don't think that's a good program. It hasn't worked up till now, let's say. Anyway, I have a lot of sympathy for all these different people, like the HKC Jaipur guys, Mukunda, all these guys. Yeah, they're trying to divert people over to worshiping Prabhupada. That's good. But they need to learn how to grow up and cooperate and be adults, and they have to, give up on trying to suppress what I'm doing, That's not going to help anything. We should be working cooperatively together. And if we don't, it means the bad guys win. That's all. Now, I have a good secular friend whose son is a policeman, and I've been showing him the exchanges I've had with the GBC people, the so-called Ritvik people, all that kind of stuff for years now. He's very interested in the whole situation. And when I showed him that Prahlad had said he was going to send my photo to the GBC Gundas to have me treated violently, maybe have me eliminated, he said, there's no difference between all these people. They're all pedophile-loving people. They worship pedophiles, and they love pedophiles, and they don't like you because you're against their whole pedophile regime. It's just, so from an ordinary outside view of someone like the media, the police, people I talk to, they say all of my opponents are the same. They have one objective, that is to stop anyone who objects to the pedophile worshipping program. period. That's how it looks to an outside observer. And I hate to have to say this, but maybe that's how it looks also to Yamaraj. You might want to think about that. But yeah, he said they hate you, the GBC hates you, these so-called Ritviks, at least some of them also hate you. They're the same. They're all cut from the same cloth. And because they oppose you, they have enabled and allowed and created this whole child molesting cult, which is what this policeman thinks it is. So we all need to join together to curb this situation. And if we don't, unfortunately, we will be held accountable and responsible for allowing, enabling, and creating this situation. That's the way I see it. So everybody should join together, including not only the so-called Ritviks, but ISKCON people should join with me, and more of them are. More ISKCON people are coming on board with me and saying, yeah, this whole thing is, it's just bad news. It's satanic, it's evil, it has to be stopped, and victims are coming forward, giving me testimony, more evidence about the poison issue, more evidence of book changes, more people coming forward to help. So I'm not discouraged. So with or without help, or with or without the help of a Ritvik or an ISKCON or a Orion person or anybody else, we are moving forward. I feel very confident of that. The wind is in our sails. I'm just saying we should try to tighten up things and streamline our differences down so we can cooperate more. And let's all move forward and clean up this mess and try to make at least some kind of, some rebuilt something out of the trash heap that the GBC has made out of ISKCON. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Haribol.